Hey everyone, it's your boy the Stir God, and I'm back with another video. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about the one and the only Martin Luther King Jr. and how the government and or society basically whitewashed them for their own agenda. But y'all probably knew this already. I didn't vote. You see, I just learned this recently, and I kind of pissed off about it. I'm angry actually because I feel like they did this to like they did this in order for black Americans to feel guilty about being violent towards the state that oppressed them. And not just black Americans. I'm talking about many people of color, many different minorities, right, in general. Because the Martin Luther King the school teaches us can also be extended into other minorities if the need arises, right? Now, I don't know if they actually do that or how effective that would actually be against a mob of, let's say, Mexicans or anything like that. Probably not much. I don't know for sure. I haven't done that type of research, right? But what I do know is that ever since George Floyd died, and the backlash from it was rioting upon rioting upon rioting, there will be a lot of people who, in the comment section, who will use Martin Luther King as an example of peace and how they should act like him, basically. They should basically be non-violent and peaceful despite seeing the murder firsthand of a black man. And not only that, but hearing that man beg to breathe. He literally begged for his life. He begged for his own mother to come save him. And I'm very angry about that actually. I'm angry because that type of thing happened. I don't know if I already said that if I'm angry, but I probably said it already. But yeah, I'm sorry for repeating myself if I did. But regardless, to me it feels like people are just talking shit about something they they know little about. Like in the case of Martin Luther King, the school teaches us very little about him. The only thing we really know, the thing I was taught about him, is that he helped black people, and he also made a speech. You know, his famous "I Had a Dream" speech, and he helped black people become less oppressed. I forgot what exactly happened, but yeah, he basically helped us become less oppressed, which I'm grateful for. I am, right? I'm not trying to like downplay his achievements. I'm not. I feel like some dumbass in the comments would be like, why are you saying all this? That's like, are you trying to downplay him or something like that? No, I'm not. I'm not downplaying his achievements. He did something great. And I kind of felt guilty for forgetting what exactly transpired. I know what transpired, but I forgot uh the exact I forgot no, I think it was a civil rights. Yeah, it was like a civil rights bill that was signed. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, Martin Luther King helped formed a civil rights bill for African Americans. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. But yeah, he did that. And that's all they teach us. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. But there's always more to things than that's let on. That's what I've learned today. For the 8th time. In fact, I don't even keep count. But yeah, at first I didn't know what to believe, but after a while, the evidence kept on piling in, and when I realized the truth, man, I ain't gonna lie, my whole mindset changed. Not my whole mindset, but my opinions regarding how people acted during George Floyd's death changed somewhat. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Right now, what I want to do, I just want to read this, and I want y'all to really listen to me. I'm gonna try my damnedest to read it as correctly as possible, because this is very, very important. Oh, and I also forgot. Um, People have also been harassing Martin Luther King Jr.'s family. Yeah, I'm just gonna say Martin Luther King family, his family. They've been harassing them a while back, but they've been harassing them, saying that your family wouldn't support this type of thing, or da da da, or something like that. And to me, that's the ultimate form of disrespect. Who do you think you are telling me something about a person that I knew for most of my life? Like, what type of entitlement you have? And that's the thing that pisses me off. Who do y'all think you are? Who you guys think you are, huh? Who do you think you are? Who? Please tell me. Please tell me. Who do you think you are? Who? If that ain't entitlement, I don't know what is. I'm gonna read this though. I'm gonna read this, right? And I want to after I read it, I'm gonna explain some other things. But let me read this real quick. The summer, oh wait, in the summer of 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. was less than a year away from his death. It's impossible to say if he knew this, but he must have felt something on the horizon. To be so black and so visible and so dangerous to the status quo for so long meant that the bullet was already on its way towards him. By then, he had somewhat resigned himself to the idea of riot as a necessary of the riot as necessary form of action. I forgot the "the." Just a year earlier, in a tense 60 minutes interview. I'm just gonna 60-minute interview, because 60 minutes makes sense to me. I don't know why they had to ask. 60 minutes interview. 16 minutes sounds fine to me. Sorry, guys. 60-minute interview with Mike Wallace. He insisted that the vast majority of black people in America still honored non-violent resistance as the best way forward, but acknowledged that a rising group in the black community was now advocating for violent resistance. This interview is where his famous "A riot is a language of the unheard" quote originated, citing the newfound urgency facing black people. Just a few sentences later, often left out of our retelling of the quote, King warned of violence in the coming summers, while also holding fast to his hope for nonviolence. I would say that every summer we're going to have this kind of vigorous protest, he told Wallace. My hope is that it will be nonviolent. I would hope that we can avoid riots, because riots are self-defeating and socially destructive. I would hope that we can avoid riots, but that we would be as militant and as determined next summer and through the winter as we have been this summer. The summer in question turned out to be a long, hot summer, and Martin Luther King found himself in an increasingly difficult position. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Voting Rights Act of 1965 felt to some like distant memories. Progress, especially when it was passed down by those in power to those who were not, can be blinding. The work of King's civil rights movement was vital, but its successes may have obscured the fact that the root of the problem was impossible to pull out and dismantle. That the country was founded on the subjugation of the poor, the marginalized, the black. Yeah. King's effort towards moderation and a stern but willing hand to reach across the aisle to whites were increasingly at odds with the direction of the new resistance. He was right in 1966 about members of the black community turning to militant violence as a means of leveling the playing field. But he seemed then unwilling or unable to recognize the growing numbers and influence. Younger militants, abide by the earlier teachings of Malcolm X, assassinated just 2 years earlier, were moving themselves to the forefront of the national conversation around race and resistance. There is something heartbreaking about watching one era bend itself as it begins to bow to another. King's work was nowhere finished in 1967, but the work he took on looked different. His eye was more globally turned than it was before. Vehemently speaking against the Vietnam War, he was focused on economic justice as well, laying the groundwork for what would become the Poor People's Campaign. But in the urban areas that were being betrayed by the institutions that were supposed to uplift and protect them, urgency was high, and noise had to be made. The summer of the year, the country was on fire. Not all of it, of course. Very specific pockets of it. Riots erupted in major cities: Detroit, Milwaukee, Buffalo. I can't spell that word. Newark. I don't know. It was the boiling over of the pot that had been shimmering for the majority of the 60s, first in the South and then rising upward and outward. A pushback against rampant police abuse and lack of affordable housing, a swelling resistance against urban renewal projects and economic inequality, and most importantly, the rise of black militancy. In September of 1967, Martin Luther King delivered a speech at the American Psychological Association annual convention in Washington, D.C. Approaching his 14th year, more than a decade removed. Hold up. Decade removed from his most prominent battles and victories. This was King, with the sun setting at his back. In the eyes of many, he was the nominal leader of the movement that no longer followed him. and he was faced with the choice of whether to resist or submit to the growing momentum of a younger, more turbulent generation. It was his first speech since the Bloody Summer had to come to a close, and he appeared to have evolved on the issue of rioting looting. He now spoke of it as a necessary act, a stance which stood in contrast to his discussion of riots just a year earlier. He had been resigned to them as an invulnerability, invincibility. Bro. I know what this word is. Hold on. I don't know. I know what I want to. Okay, I just gotta skip it. But now he was understanding them as a small measure of freedom. Urban riots must now be recognized as a durable social phenomenon, he told the assembled crowd of mostly white doctors and academics. They may be deplored, but they are there and should be understood. Urban riots are a special form of violence. They are not insurrections. The rioters are not seeking to seize the territory or attain or attain control of institutions. They are mainly intended to shock the white community. They are a distorted form of social protest. The looting, which is their principal feature, severs many functions. It enables the most enraged and deprived Negro to take hold of consumer goods with the ease the white man does by using his poise. Yeah, I think yeah. Often, the Negro does not even win what he takes. He wants the experience of taking. Okay, I'm doing good so far. Not that great, but not that bad either. One of the fundamental notions of non-violence is that in order to be respected, one must behave well and abide by the social construct. We work hard, follow the rules, and prosper. The problem is that since the beginning of the Atlantic slave trade, black people have worked harder and followed more rules, more stricter than anyone in America, and still they found themselves in an impossible and impervious situation. No, it's not pervious. It's imperved. Uh, hold on. Okay, imperversed situation. King may not have been as militant as the militants would have liked, and he may have become an even greater citizen of the world while seas were on fire, but by the time he spoke in the fall of 1967, he recognized that it would no longer be effective to tell black folks to only protest peacefully, kindly, and respectfully. They could not prosper in a game where they were the only ones expected to play by the rules. King closed that speech with a stark truth. Let us say boldly that if the violations of the law by white men in the slums over the years were calculated and compared with the law-breaking of a few days of riots, the hardened criminal would be the white man. These are often difficult things to say, but I have to come to see more and more that it is necessary to utter the truth in order to deal with the greater problems that we face in our society. It is violent to take that which does not belong to you for the thrill of it, even bravery. Imagining yourself on the ground with your oppressor. Ben King was concluding there was to be no hope for nonviolence. Perhaps then, perhaps not then, perhaps not ever, Martin Luther King, at the end of his life, was committed to understand the restrictions of nonviolence as a weapon against a violent oppressor who shows no moral compass. There are limits to how long one can attempt to quiet a fire. King's transition from the summer of 1966 to the summer of 1967 was from hopping against violence to accepting it as a function of the society it operated in, as an invulnerability, invulnerability. How can I say the word? I know what this is. Invulnerability. I'm sorry, guys. I can't say some words for some reason. For a people he had led to a promised land, but did not deliver on its promise. Beyond the Mr. Beauty, I can't say that word, I'm sorry, quotes, and bad memes and poor logic made in his name, the real tragedy of King's legacy is that the white people who so frequently invoke it in the name of peace do so with a fundamental perversion of its message. Nonviolence, as it is discussed and fertilized in proximity to the poor and or marginalized is so it's not that's not what it says. Marginalized is so often only dragged out in response to any uprising of those people. The riot is a language, yes, but the response to a riot is also its own language, a language of doublespeak. The call is for peace and love, but the true demand is for complete silence altogether. An NFL player takes a knee without speaking and is threatened and hated, called a violent thug and a racist. For those of certain skin color, so no protest can be peaceful enough. And it's funny how that works. The people who have the most justified anger and the most rightful case for rebellion are the ones most frequently told to settle down, to embrace nonviolence. They are the ones told to follow the example of a man who made his end with a bullet fired from a racist gun. Okay, so what did that teach us? It taught us that in the end, Martin Luther King Jr. embraced rioting as a form that is necessary in order for the black community to be heard. Why do I say this now? Well, once again, we need to look back towards George Floyd. As I said earlier, when there were riots breaking out, people would be online and they would post comments like, "Oh yeah, Martin Luther King would be insane. Martin Luther King would not want this. Blah 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 blah," and they would talk shit about something they barely knew. They weren't given the whole story. They were given bits and pieces. I was given bits and pieces. And for me, in my mind, the school taught us that in order for us to feel guilty, for expressing our anger in a violent way. In doing so, we are taught to be ashamed of it, because at the end of this day, Martin Luther King, who is a black man, changed America without being violent himself, without believing in violence. But the truth is, Martin Luther King is more likely to be for the rioting that has happened with George Floyd than against it. And at this point, I feel like you can't tell me otherwise. I feel like you can't really tell me that. Because at the end of the day, my school, every school in America, teaches us a white washed down version of Martin Luther King in order to silence the justified voices of those who feel like they don't have a voice in this country. So with that said, I've come to understand that rioting is indeed a rightful action to take when all else fails. Because as you know, when people were peaceful, they were beaten, they were pepper sprayed, and they were tased by police officers. And they were peaceful. But no one wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about that. People online are mainly focused towards the violent actions of a few and not adding the action of those who did exactly what Martin Luther King wanted. Like, it doesn't get any simpler than that. And it's like, it wasn't like I was always against rioting. No, I wasn't. I was never against rioting. I was just against using it in George Floyd's name. Well, that being said, if there was a point where I could go back and actually participate, I would, honestly. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be like a mindless riot. No, I wouldn't just go out there and still sit. Right? I wouldn't go out there with a plan. I would go out there in the hopes that the actions of me and hundreds, if not thousands, of other people who are both black and white will send a message to those in charge that we're not going to stand for this type of shit any longer. We're not doing that. This happened. We're not letting it happen again. Because if it does happen again, we're going to burn this whole shit down. Because I'm not going to lie. If Derek Chauvin was found not guilty, I hope they burn that shit down. I hope that burned that shit down. I on anything I love, I hope that they had burned that shit down. He was not found not guilty. I hope. Because even then, while doing so would ruin a lot of lives, at the end of the day, it's all about sending a message. The government don't give a fuck about you breaking a window or two. Nah, they can just replace that. It don't matter to them. Excuse me. You have to send a big enough message in order for them to realize that we're not fucking around. Am I against peaceful protests? I'm not. There is a time and a place for everything. We tried to peacefully protest. That's a fact. And they were beaten for it. And what did we do in response? We fought back. And we were beaten for it. But us fighting back had more of an impact than us getting tased and beaten, and not and us getting tased and beaten for simply holding a sign. How does that work? The thing is, too, I've read or so I listened to peaceful protests compared to rioting. People are saying, well, this one person. Now I find quite curious because it was one person, well, it was one channel that said peaceful protests are actually more effective in in his overall job than rioting is. But that's funny because after Martin Luther King died, a riot broke out, and thousands of black Americans who were angry went out into the streets and targeted white businesses. And what happened after that? The Civil Rights Act was signed. So how are you telling me that nonviolence is effective more than nonviolence if we did that as a community and we got faster results than Martin Luther King ever did protesting peacefully? Tell me that. Explain to me. Explain to me. Explain to me. Because that right there tells me that even though peaceful protesting is effective, there is a time to talk and there is a time for action. And Martin Luther King, he was to talk, right? He was to talk. And he talked, and he talked, and he talked. And nothing worked. It got people's attention. It sent a message in its own way, yes. I'm not saying that it didn't. But in terms of actually accomplishing the things people wanted in his time, it didn't work out for them. So, they started to go out there and they started to do it themselves in their own way. And how did they do it? By rioting. And what did they do after he died? They riot. And what happened after that? They got results. So me knowing that, I'm glad that after George Floyd died, that they started rioting. I'm glad about that. I'm glad. Because if that's the case, and in my mind, I believe that if we were peaceful all the time, that Derek Salva will be found not guilty. He'll just be without the streets. He'll just let him go. Let him walk free. Let him walk straight home. But people in, I think, was it Minnesota, Minneapolis? I forgot the name exactly. But people in that city, they were angry. And so what they did, they burned the police station down. And what did I tell? What did I tell the government? What did I tell the government? What did I tell law enforcement who lived there? That told them that they're not gonna let that shit slide. They're not gonna stand by and watch a murderer walk the streets. So they found that man not guilty. They found that man guilty. They had no other choice. It was a crime committed in front of their eyes, and that crime is even proven further when doctors told them straight up that it was a murder. George Floyd died due to having not enough oxygen in his system because he had a knee on his neck, and that's what happened. And like I said before, if he was found not guilty, I would hope that they will burn that place down. I really hope so. I really, really hope so. Because if they didn't learn from that, they're gonna learn when their own city is just a pile of flames. And once again, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that. No. Okay, so I'm saying all this, knowing the lives it would ruin. I know that for a fact, right? I'm not dumb. I know that people's lives will be negatively affected. Here's my point, though. Everything you do will have a negative reaction and a positive reaction. Take peaceful protests, for example. It was a positive reaction that received a negative reaction. Then those protests became violent, and a negative reaction received the same result, just backwards. I mean, of course, there were still cops beating the protesters, well, the rioters. You can't make call someone. You can't really say they were protesting. They were rioting. I don't know, because in this you actually use they actually called them something else. What do they call them? Oh no, it's not here. I'm trying to find it. 1 second, guys. Um, um, I thought it was like right here somewhere. No, it's not right there. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Wait. Social protest. Okay, yeah, that's it. Social protest. So I don't know if you will call it a social protest today, like it was called back then. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. And that's a sad thing. Well, it's not really sad, but I mean, I don't know. I got really nothing to say to that. I don't know. And Will could too. I'm not done yet. So recently, this is another topic this was another topic I was going to talk about in a different video, but I'm just going to do it all in one. So recently, cause it kind of messes up together anyways. So recently, I heard that the leader of the Black Lives Matter movement, no, matter of fact, I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it in my other video. Yeah, because I want to have the thing set up. So I can read a certain part of it. So yeah, never mind. I'll do that in the next video. But yeah, at the end of the day, we were taught in school about a man. They taught us half truth of a man who started out peaceful, and then midway through his life, before his death, he became to understand the importance of violence and how it can send a message to those who actively oppress them. Because even after Martin Luther King, the shit is still happening today. It's still happening. It is still happening. It will never stop. The only thing we can really do about it is make enough noise for them to know when enough is enough. That's the only thing we can do. One of these days, there's gonna be another George Floyd, and there's gonna be another Rodney King. One of these days. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon enough, there will be another one. And this shit will happen all over again. Just at the end, the government will learn not to fuck with us once more. And they will decide to go on their merry way. And maybe, just maybe, would actually do something to actually help the black community and other minorities. Anyway, guys, that's all I really have to say. To me, I felt like it was important to talk about this type of stuff. And I almost forgot. In case there's someone who was watching this video and is thinking that this article is entirely fake, I got something for you. Hold on. I actually got something for you. Hold on.
I still have a dream. Yeah. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. But I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. Now, I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. I still have faith in the future. But I've had to analyze many things over the last few years, and I would say over the last few months. I've gone through a lot of soul-searching and agonizing moments, and I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead, and some of the old optimism was a little superficial, and now it must be tempered with a solid realism. And I think the realistic fact is that we still have a long, long way to go.